Let's maul in the Central Committee. Let's cringe in the Central Committee. Let's bog in the Central Committee right now.
Okay. We have a Trump clip. Trump is such a fucking loser. He's just at Mar-a-Lago ranting every week. Whenever somebody has a party in the ballroom, Trump just goes and starts ranting at the ballroom, like during the party. Like, also, of course, none of them are socially distanced or wearing masks. And it's just so pathetic that we have to watch it.
Let's see what they find. I wouldn't be surprised if they found thousands and thousands and thousands of votes. So we're going to watch that very closely. And after that, you'll watch Pennsylvania and you watch Georgia.
It's been 6 months,
and
man.
You're going to watch Michigan and Wisconsin, and you're watching New Hampshire. They found a lot of votes up in New Hampshire just now. You saw that. Because this was a rigged election, everybody knows it, and we're going to be watching it very closely. But start off by you just take a look. It's on closed circuit. I guess it's on all over the place because everyone's talking about yesterday front page of the New York Times. They didn't want to write it, but that's because they thought they were going to have a negative decision, and the judge gave us a positive decision. Let's see what.
Oh, he's so pathetic, dude. Can you imagine this is your daddy? Imagine being a Trump supporter. How humiliating is this? This is a washed-up comedian before they're great. He couldn't get a Vegas stage. He's in his own personal club. It's so sad. It's so pathetic. Does anyone have the whole thing? I could only find this clip. The one-time leader of the free world who now lives alone in a hotel, sharing buffets, common areas, and staffless strangers, yearns for attention and relevance so badly, he now stands on a patio step every night ranting to tens of people about a 6-month-old election that he lost. That was fucking new. Yes, this is new. He's talking about the Arizona shit. Oh my God. Did we not talk about the Arizona scam? It's so stupid.
Let's head to Arizona, where Republicans are recounting 2 million ballots by hand in Maricopa County, nearly 6 months after the presidential election. And just a reminder, President Biden beat former President Trump in the state by 10,000 votes. Vaughn Hilliard is checking in with voters in Phoenix. Vaughn, what in the
Thomas
world is
Frank
going
and Nancy
on with this
McClain
audit?
on this
Who
week?
Who's counting
Nice.
the ballots? And
Really?
my most important question, who is paying for this noise?
Good question, Stephanie, because most of those we don't have answers to. We actually have no idea who are actually these hand counters. We don't know who's paying for this audit. In short, this was the Republican-led state Senate that subpoenaed Maricopa County's 2.1 million ballots from November. And you'll recall Maricopa County, which makes up about 60% of the electorate in Arizona, it flipped in favor of Joe Biden in 2020. And Arizona flipped as a state as a whole. And it is the state Senate that actually hired an outside consultancy firm called, quote, Cyber Ninjas. This is a group where we don't know exactly where they're getting their funding. We don't know who they've hired to count these ballots, but we know the head of the group actually spread election conspiracies suggesting that Donald Trump actually won the election in November. That's who's running the show and who has their hands on these 2.1 million ballots. A lot of serious questions here as this unfolds here this week, Stephanie.
And OAN is watching this. Also, President Biden about to reach, we've been talking about it all hour, 100 days this week. For voters in that state, the majority of them who believe this was legitimate, how do they think he's doing?
Exactly. This is more than recounting of 2020. As you said, OAN is the only organization that actually has access to watch this unfold here. And that is why I wanted to go and reach out to some of these Republicans who ultimately voted for Joe Biden in the last election, because there's not only a governor's race in 2022, but Mark Kelly is up for his Senate reelection again this upcoming November of 2022. And that's why these Republicans that helped turn the state in favor of Joe Biden, where do they see this administration? Where do they see this Democratic-led Congress going? And I went this weekend to go and meet up with Trudy and Larry Vroom. Larry voted for a Republican for president every single election until Joe Biden. I said, even with more liberal policy initiatives being put forward by this president, what do you think of him now? Well, take a listen.
I have tremendous empathy for him and the problems that he's facing. I think he's doing a great job. We've got somebody serious, somebody who has moral character and ethics, trying to solve some of the major problems we're facing in this country.
Larry shook his head at the suggestion of this audit, quote, audit taking place, and he actually said the insurrection on January 6th was his coup de grace. I said, would you still like to consider yourself a Republican, Larry? And he gave a little chuckle and said, you know, I may be considering myself a, quote, conservative Democrat.
So the Republicans have some sort of secret audit going on, and they've recounted and recounted, and it wasn't particularly that. It was close, but it wasn't that close in Arizona. It was close in kind of a grand electoral sense, but it wasn't close in like actual reality. So a treasure hunter, a Satanism expert, and Mike Lindell fight to overturn Biden win in Arizona. This is the headline. This is the headline. Yeah, this headline. Yeah, this is gonna work. We're gonna have to take a look at this. Yeah, we're taking a look. That's definitely happening. That's happening right now. Wouldn't Biden still have enough electoral votes to win even if he lost Arizona anyway? Yes. Biden doesn't even need Arizona. They're just coping that hard. And the reason why they are coping that hard is because they can't accept that they were simply defeated. And every Republican now has to personally cater to Trump's whims and his bullshit arguments, no matter how stupid. With Joe Biden inaugurated as president more than 2 months ago, Donald Trump and his supporters, this is back from March, long ago gave up efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. But in Arizona, the dream of a Trump victory lives on, drawing on a bizarre cast of characters intent on rooting out non-existent fraud. As the Republican-held state Senate prepares to recount 2.1 million ballots cast in Democratic-leading Maricopa County, Arizona has become a hotbed for election fraud vigilantes. The motley crew leading the charge includes a failed treasure hunter, a Trumpist pillow magnate, a self-proclaimed expert on satanic forces, and roving bands of amateur ballot sleuths who climb into dumpsters and investigate chicken coop fires. Trump is always, unfortunately, on the leading edge of conspiracy theories and craziness, says Maricopa County Democratic Party Chairman Stephen Slugookie. Slugookie? Your name is Slugookie? That's the best last name I've ever heard. Where are the Slugookies from? The months-long ballot fight centers on an effort by Arizona State Senate Republicans led by Senate President Karen Fann. Her name is Karen Fann. Slugookie and Karen Fann. These are legendary names already. One of the most prominent boosters of the Senate recount has been the We the People Alliance, a coalition of conservative activists that emerged after the election. On March 10th, a group organized a rally featuring Rep. Paul Gosar and MAGA Hulk, a muscular pro-Trump personality. MyPillow founder and staunch Trump ally Mike Lindell, who has become one of the most visible backers of pro-Trump groups and media outlets, declared in a video played at the event that the group's work should be heard around the world and claimed that Trump would be back in office by this summer. Lindell told the Daily Beast on Saturday that he's funding several conservative groups working. How many people are robbing Mike Lindell blind? How many people? Mike, why are you paying for this and not Trump? He's a billionaire. He was the guy whose office it is. Why are you being grifted? All of my evidence is going to the Supreme Court. We keep gathering and gathering, but anything that could come from this audit will also be included in my lawsuit before the Supreme Court. I have lawyers for that, he said. Arizona is a hotbed. We're gonna get to the machines. We the People Arizona's membership includes Dr. Lyle Rapinski, a far-right activist who claimed demonic forces are afoot over the Maricopa County ballots. Rapinski knows about demons. Amidst the satanic panic in the 80s, in which law enforcement, the media, and parents across the country began convinced of fictitious tales about children being abused by satanic cults. Have you guys heard about the satanic panic? We should cover that. We should talk about the satanic panic one day. Oh my God. If you're a Zoomer or a young millennial, you probably don't know about this. Conservatives were convinced that through games like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and that there were secret pedophile satanic sex rings that were around the country, centered in daycare centers, and they were convincing children to worship Satan because of D&D, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene? No, Magic the Gathering. I want to show you this. Conservatives used to think D&D was satanic. I think they still do, some of them. Oh, here it is. Dungeons and Dragons controversies. Oh, for fuck's sake. Especially in the early 80s, during the game's early years, because the term D&D may be mistakenly used to refer to all type of role-playing games, some controversies regarding D&D mistakenly pertain to role-playing games in general, to the literally genre of fantasy. It's alleged promotion of Satanism, witchcraft, suicide, pornography, and murder. The moral panic or feeling of fear spread among many people that some evil threatens the well-being of society. A game encouraging sorcery and the veneration of demons. We need to talk about this. I should actually make a video about this because I think it'd be funny. Anti-D&D was Tom Hanks' first movie.
Robbie!
Robbie! Robbie!
Robbie! Pardue, what are you doing?
Going to join the Great Hall.
You can't. It's a trap.
I have spells. I'm going to fly.
You don't have enough points. I am the maze controller.
Mazeca? Maze control?
Yes. And I have absolute authority in this game.
D&D. It's become...
Game?
Game.
Game.
Push in with the zoom, chat.
JJ, what am I doing here? Kate, why can't I remember?
Brand new can turn to.
Why is America so stupid? QAnon is new. We haven't been this stupid. Oh no, we've been this stupid for the entire time.
with a lot of adults, D&D, and it's become popular with children anywhere from grammar school on up. Not so with a lot of adults who think it's been connected to a number of suicides and murders. The idea of the game, which is played by highly imaginative and intelligent kids, is to assume the role of one of the characters. One game can go on for weeks or even months. The problem seems to be that some kids take it more seriously than others, take it a step further, playing a character who brings them the power in a game they couldn't possibly get in real life.
About 2 months ago, a green eyeball was seen up in the sky. This eyeball was so big it blotted out the sun, okay?
These young people are playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's an enormously complicated game in which each player chooses an imaginary character he'll assume. There are dwarfs, knights and thieves, gods and devils, magic and spells. It's a journey into a land of fantasy through complicated mazes where you use your wits to kill your enemies before they kill you, all in a quest for wealth and power. The Dungeon Master orchestrates and referees the game, creating scenarios both complicated and terrifying. There is no board, only the dice.
I've never seen dice like these. All different sides.
Six-sided.
What's the point in that?
They're for different things. The four-sided is used mainly for damage from a dagger and dart.
Okay, chat. I want to go to the satanic panic part. You know, they're explaining the game. You know what D&D is.
Murder and a suicide.
Okay.
Suicide. Noted. D&D 21. Evidence that those who are fearful that the game in the hands of vulnerable kids could do harm. And there is evidence that seems to support that view. Timothy Grice, 21. A shotgun suicide. The detective report noted D&D became a reality. Irving Bink Pulling, 16, an avid D&D player, a suicide. Daniel and Stephen Irwin, 16 and 12, a murder and a suicide. The police said they were obsessed with the game. James Allen Kirby, 14 years old, charged with killing his junior high school principal and wounding 3 other people. Police are blaming D&D. Jeffrey Jaklovich, 14. Stephen Loyacano, 16. Michael Dempsey, 17. And the list goes on. The company that makes the Dungeons and Dragons material is TSR Incorporated of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. They estimate there are 3 to 4 million kids who play the game. Last year, they grossed nearly $30 million, with Dungeons and Dragons books and paraphernalia accounting for most of those sales. Gary Gygax owns the company and invented the game. Dieter Sturm is the head of public relations.
There are a number of cases that have been documented where there is some connection between D&D. I'm not saying that D&D is the cause of the death, but paraphernalia from the game has been found at the scene of the death. Notes, suicide notes referring to the game have been found, and all of these people, in a dozen or so cases, have been documented as avid D&D players. And you see no connection whatsoever?
We see no connection for the fact that right now there's some 3 to 4 million players of the game actively throughout the United States. Right at this particular time, 1985, teenage suicide is epidemic across the country, with some 5,000 kids a year now taking their lives. I think that to say that because that child played Dungeons & Dragons, who's to say that that child does not watch television, does not participate in high school sports, or what per se?
I have yet to see one bit of valid clinical evidence to show that this has been anything more than coincidental with a disturbed child.
If you found 12 kids in murder-suicide with one connecting factor in each of them, wouldn't you question it? And that's all people do.
I would certainly do it in a scientific manner, and this is as unscientific as you can get. It's nothing but a witch hunt.
But the families who have suffered the loss of a loved one would disagree. Pat and Lee Pulling and their 12-year-old daughter, Melissa. The Pullings came home one night 3 years ago and found Bink, their son, dead on the front lawn of their home in Montpelier, Virginia. He had shot himself through the heart with his father's handgun. Until that night, they had never heard of the game Dungeons & Dragons. Then they began looking through his things.
We went into the kitchen, and there on the table were what we thought were just regular composition books with schoolwork in it, and much of the Dungeons & Dragons material, along with this curse he had received in the game that day that he died.
The curse that was placed on Bing.
I can't. It's one thing if a parent is having some like weird, like out of body coping experience of like their child committed suicide, so they don't want to blame themselves, right? Like if you're a parent and your child commits suicide, the last person you want to blame is yourself. So you create these elaborate fucking stories. That's almost understandable. What's not understandable is see it fucking 60 Minutes putting this on the air and entertaining this woman's fucking delusions. This is so disgusting. This is pure vulture journalism.
Bink's D&D character began, "Your soul is mine. I choose the time." In a letter that he left, Bink said he had been summoned to kill himself because he was evil.
It was obvious through his writings that he felt
it's called
he had
mental illness.
This character. But what I couldn't get into my mind was, is it possible? How could anybody do that? How could a 16-year-old that is smart and...
So that's when the age that schizophrenic conditions often express themselves as late adolescence, early adulthood. So, like, this has nothing to do with the game.
Intelligent. Why would they believe that they were something in a game? And why would they kill themselves because somebody else said to do it?
Your son was well-adjusted?
Always. He had never had psychological problems. He was healthy, even physically healthy.
Well, we found that there's been numerous parents who say that the child's had no problems and such. Very conclusively, we go back.
Okay, parents don't know shit about what's going on in a child's social life at school. This is horseshit. And with all due respect to the memory of this kid, the kind of people that were playing Dungeons & Dragons when it was brand new, I mean, that is some fucking nerdy activity, okay? So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he was bullied. You know how I know that? He was in high school. Everyone gets bullied in high school. Everybody has that moment where they were the butt of the joke or people were mean to them. And some people get relentlessly bullied and it fucks them up for a long time. So can we stop?
To details of reports of classmates, of teachers, of friends and such, who very much kind of show that the youngster didn't fit in to school. He had outside problems and generally problems with his family.
We know that in the case of Dungeons and Dragons, upwards of 3 million kids play the game with no apparent serious consequence. That for them it exercises the imagination and is just good fun. But there are those who are afraid that impressionable, vulnerable kids could be harmed by it. Dr. Thomas Radecki is a psychiatrist who teaches at the University of Illinois Medical School and who is chairman of the National Coalition on Television Violence. He has been studying the game for several years and says there are 28 deaths related to Dungeons and Dragons in the last 5 years.
In some of those, it was clearly the decisive element. In other ones, it was just a major element in the thinking of the people at the time they committed suicide or murder. It's not coincidence, not when you have careful documentation, you have careful notes, you have eyewitnesses. For instance, one case, the parents saw their child summon Dungeons and Dragons demons into his room before he killed himself. Another case, the kid thought he had the ability to astral travel coming from the Dungeons and Dragons game, that he could leave his body and come back, and he had rigged it up just according to the rule book so he could do it. He was surrounded by his materials and put a bullet in his head so he could leave his body, and he's never come back.
Make-believe, and nobody's murdered, and there's no violence there. I mean, to use an analogy with another game, who is bankrupted by losing a game of Monopoly? Nobody is, because the money is make-believe, the property is make-believe, and the bankruptcy is make-believe.
It is not like Monopoly. There is no board. It is role-playing, which is typically used for behavior modification. If you are using behavior modification and you are doing violent roles and you're doing negative roles continuously, these children not only begin to have violent dreams or violent thoughts or negative, depressing type things, they become very much a part of this character.
You're role-playing, you're rehearsing, you're developing the character hour after hour, day after.
You might be thinking about mayhem, and yeah, they were like 19-year-old edgelords. Varg of Burzum is a white supremacist. Early black metal was referencing Lord of the Rings a lot. Yeah, I'm sure it was. We already have talked about the Philadelphia move bombing, actually, on the stream a number of times. I mean, maybe we can do it again if you want.
After day.
Nearly wasn't allowed to play D&D in the late 80s, early 90s because of this BS. Keep in mind, there was also as few TV miniseries these networks put out following twisted D&D kids.
We're really talking about intense involvement in a very serious form of violence.
The important thing to remember is, if you're playing a character, let's say, for instance, you have an evil character. The rules tell you your evil character is allowed in the scope of the rules to murder people and to rape and plunder. If you're playing a good character, you're the defender of the people. You try to stop the people from raping and plundering. Yeah. But it's just your character that does it on the sheet of paper. When the game is over, the game does not tell you to go out and rape and plunder.
But for some kids, it's not as simple as that. Melissa claimed that D&D had become more than just a game for her brother Bink.
Someone threatened you?
Yes. My brother threatened to kill me one time.
And we found out later that he had threatened to kill her if she told us that he was playing the game. She knew it, and she was actually scared for her life.
After her son's death, Pat Pulling thoroughly investigated the game. She felt so strongly that it was responsible for her son's death that she formed a network of concerned people to warn others about the dangerous aspects of the game. Because of her involvement with D&D, Mrs. Pulling is often consulted by police departments.
Has placed you in a dreadfully precarious.
She's often consulted by police departments? My brother threatened to kill me and had never played D&D.
Last November, in this deserted area outside the small town of Lafayette, Colorado, two brothers, Daniel and Stephen Irwin, 16 and 12 years old, were found dead. It was a murder-suicide.
It's Nutty Boys. Thanks for the tier 2, brother.
The story was widely
Appreciate
covered
that.
by newspapers and television, as was the fact that the police said the deaths were caused by the boys' obsession with the game Dungeons and Dragons. Officer Greg Corey was assigned to the case when the boys were first reported missing. He learned that they used to come to this railroad trestle to play the game.
Both boys were here when you came? Yes, both boys were intertwined, their legs intertwined down in this area. The older boy in this area here, the younger boy laying here with the .22 caliber gun next to his head. where the gun was found was just to the right of his head area.
Christ.
As a police officer, as an investigator, did you see a connection between what happened here and the game Dungeons and Dragons?
What the fuck? This is so unbelievable. Any response, if this cop says anything but no, this is an outrageous question. What was your shit take on Death Note again? I think Death Note is like weird, fascist, like, and really terrible. That's my opinion of Death Note. And the second season does not redeem it at all.
Investigation showed that it was a focal point of the boys' lives. They were just enthralled in the game. And this comes from witnesses and the family and the brother, that they were totally obsessed with the game. In fact, would play it for 48 hours straight, sort of a marathon playing.
2 weeks after the police chief announced that Dungeons and Dragons had been the cause of the boys' deaths, he issued a...
Wait, what? He announced Dungeons and Dragons was the cause? What did they do? Get a leg embolism from, like, what? Sorry, Billy, you rolled a critical failure on that saving throw. You have to die. Yeah, permadeath, D&D. Real permadeath. You can't make a new character. You have to die in real... You die in D&D. You die in real life. Who wants to play that hardcore D&D? I'll play some hardcore D&D. And you got to roll for your stats as well, right? Like, we're not going to give you the opportunity to pick fixed stats. You got to roll for your stats. Oh, sorry. Looks like you rolled really low on your fucking constitution in the game. Uh-oh, spaghetti-o.
Final press release with a different version of his earlier statements. TSR claimed they were vindicated. But Pat Pulling couldn't believe that the police changed their story.
Because it's fucking ridiculous.
You can't change it. If it's the truth, you can't change it. I mean, children are dying, Ed. Children are dying out there, and people are not telling.
Mrs. Pulling was convinced that it was the threat of a lawsuit by TSR rather than the evidence that made the police chief change his story.
Did you threaten to sue the city?
No, we did not threaten to sue. We did send them a letter, which we asked them in a very kind way that they please further investigation and take a look at exactly what all the evidence is and what the details are specifically before they start calling the name of our product into it as being a blame or cause.
But Mrs. Pulling had received a letter from the police chief in Lafayette in which he said that it was his fear of a lawsuit that made him back off.
Yes, he sent me a letter.
The letter to Mrs. Pulling from the chief of police said in part, "I sincerely hope you will understand what has happened and will forgive me. I do not feel very good about myself, and I feel that I have lost a part of my integrity. May I say that the city administrator and city attorney were very supportive of me, but cautious. My obligation to the city as a whole to protect them from serious financial litigation was predominant."
I wept. I mean, I said, boy, you know, maybe somebody was going to really take and pay attention to this now and start doing some serious research and start stopping children from dying over something that they didn't have to die.
I don't think anyone is suggesting that your intentions originally with this game were anything but good. It was a game to have some fun. But in the light of what some people would consider to be strong evidence, don't you really think that you have to rethink your position about the game and at least make known the potential for abuse of the game?
Well, I again have to go back and say there's no link that this is, except perhaps in the minds of those people who are looking desperately for any other cause than perhaps their own failure as a parent for their child's death. And further, anything can be abused. Are we going to try to go around and say, this chair could be used by a violent person to strike another person. Therefore, it should have a warning label on it saying, caution, this can be used to assault you with.
We would like an impartial inquiry by the Consumer Product Safety Commission to actually look into these deaths, to call the police, call the detectives forward, bring forth the evidence, bring the parents in, look at this. Let's have an inquiry, an open public inquiry.
This is what people in the 80s were talking about instead of, like, you know, destruction of unions and this is conservatives. They do the same shit. The transes in the schools, they're trying to kill your daughter. It's nonstop garbage.
Let's find out the truth.
This is
This
neoliberalism.
Friday, the town of Putnam, Connecticut will hold a town meeting to discuss whether Dungeons and Dragons should continue to be played in their schools. The suicide of a 13-year-old Putnam boy has once again fanned the controversy.
On the phone, we asked two college students to call.
My name is Sarah.
To Sarah Maxa, he identified himself as
Tom Radecki.
To Rebecca Howland.
He said he was a doctor, and I said, what kind? And he said he was a psychiatrist.
But Dr. Radecki does not tell the prospective clients who call his 800 number a piece of information that we found in the state records in Illinois. 3 years ago, Illinois revoked Dr. Radecki's license to practice medicine. The grounds, engaging in immoral conduct of an unprofessional nature with a patient. In fact, the Surrogate Parenting Institute is Dr. Radecki's home in Urbana, Illinois. At first, he declined to be interviewed.
I'm Anthony Mason with CBS.
But later, he and his wife consented.
When people speak to you over the phone and speak to you and you introduce yourself as Dr. Radecki, do you think they have the right to know that you've lost your license?
I think they certainly I would tell people that if they asked.
Do you tell them if they don't ask?
No. 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 You know, my name doesn't appear on any letters that go out or anything like that. It's not used as a sales technique.
But in this letter seeking business advice from Indiana surrogacy attorney Steve Litz, Dr. Radecki introduced himself. I am a psychiatrist.
His conduct is, at best, a misrepresentation and more probably fraudulent.
Realistically, what credentials does he have to do this?
None. Nobody has to have any credentials to have a surrogate program.
And that surrogacy experts say is the problem. The industry is almost completely unregulated. Donors and couples have to rely on the ethics and honesty of those who hold themselves up to be professionals in the business. Not only has Dr. Radecki advertised all over the country for egg donors, from Yale to UCLA.
I'm 19.
He's also recruited college women who've never had children to consider
Surrogacy?
Surrogacy.
He said he thought it would be an interesting and exciting experience for me as a college freshman.
But most surrogacy programs have a very different view.
They're not mature enough. They have not had a chance to have their own children yet.
Shirley Zager of the nonprofit Organization of Parents Through Surrogacy argues that until...
So that's this guy. What a fucking psychopath.
Though the industry is regulated,
It's anything goes. And because of that, people like Dr. Thomas Radecki can open shop.
Diane and Tom Radecki say they were only trying to help infertile couples.
I suppose the public feel that we've been dishonest with them, and I'm very sorry. But we will still continue. I
don't know if we'll continue.
Yesterday, the Radeckis called CBS News to say they were disconnecting their phones and going out of business. In Urbana, Illinois, I'm Anthony Mason for Eye on America.
Just ahead.
My God. Jesus Christ. We all got down this rabbit hole because I was talking about the Arizona recount being led by a Satanism expert. Rapakini held himself out to law enforcement. Rapaki held himself out to law enforcement as an expert on Satanism. The author of a book called Satanism, the Not So New Problem? Oh my God! Rapaki claimed in a 1988 interview with the Oregonian that satanic forces are all around us, worshipped by doctors, lawyers, and other seemingly upstanding people in a generational satanic pact for power. True Satanism is a secret, serious, totally committed movement that has gone on for thousands of years. Rapaki said at the time. They worship a deity called Lucifer like the Christians worship Jesus Christ. God damn it, you're supposed to not tell don't tell the normies. Despite his outlandish views, Rapaki has managed to gain some sway.
A gaming channel.
Yeah, gaming channel content. Much of Rapini's clout Arizona has come from priority communications he distributes to activists that purport to draw on intelligent sources. He's still keeping up with the Satanists, though, promoting the QAnon conspiracy theory on his blog, and backing a Trump-endorsed theory from a controversial falconer that claims Biden murdered Navy SEALs to help Osama bin Laden escape justice? What? I was among a handful of individuals who dared to stand up and expose witchcraft and the occult in America. Chad, if the Republicans have their way, we will actually have witch hunts again. QAnon is the 21st century witch hunt. Actual witch hunts. Actual fucking witch hunts. More recently, Rapaki has aligned himself with anti-government ranchers like the Bundy family. He served as the second in command of a radical pro-rancher land group called, alongside then Washington State Rep Matt Shea. An independent investigation funded by the Washington legislature found that in 2019 that Shea, a Republican who shared operational advice with Rapaki and others during the 2016 Malheur standoff in Oregon that involved members of the Bundy family, committed domestic terrorism for his role in the plotting. One potential candidate for the recount, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, an inventor who claims to have invented a mysterious technology to detect voter fraud. After the election, Pulitzer was heralded by Trump supporters who saw earlier more conventional recounts fail to produce any evidence of voter fraud. It said they won a Pulitzer audit, a ballot inspection premised on Pulitzer's little understood technology. Pulitzer originally gained notoriety during the dot-com boom as the inventor of the much-mocked QCat, a cat-shaped barcode scanner that was meant to let people reading magazines scan barcodes and ads, taking them to related websites. Pulitzer, using the name J. Jovan Filya, took in more than $185 million in investments in his feline-themed scanner, but the product flopped. In 2006, PC World ranked Pulitzer's invention, dubbed one of the most ridiculed products of the internet era, as the 20th worst tech product of all time. He resurfaced as an amateur treasure hunter in the 2015 on a History Channel show styling himself as commander of Treasure Force and positing that a Roman sword ostensibly found on a Canadian island proved that ancient Romans had visited Canada. Scientific analysis showed that the sword was in fact a modern replica. How does this fucking guy keep getting? How does he constantly get more and more fame, notoriety, and money? Who the fuck is this guy related to? I need to know who the fuck this guy is related to. Pulitzer returned to notoriety in the weeks after Trump's defeat, claiming he had developed a technology that would detect kinematic artifacts, essentially folds in paper that would produce whether or not the ballots were legitimate. As Pulitzer's mystery technology was heralded by MAGA fans, it also came in for ridicule from election officials, with Georgia's Secretary of State dubbing Pulitzer a failed treasure hunter. It's just meritocracy in action. The right-wing blog The Gateway Pundit, which has breathlessly covered the twist of the Arizona ballot saga, has called for Pulitzer to audit Maricopa County ballots. Rasmussen Reports has promoted his proposal for kinematic audits. Chat, these are mainstream Republican outlets. These are right in the middle of the Republican Party. Rasmussen and Gateway Pundit are about as mainstream Republican as it gets. Our country's gonna collapse. I have mentally checked out of this country. Fuck this country. Holy shit. Pulitzer himself has retweeted calls for a Pulitzer audit in the county, which will rely on Pulitzer deciding whether ballots are legitimate based on a supposed technology that few, if any, people aside from Pulitzer understand. AKA, it's a scam. It's a scam. His methods are very good, Lindell said. My pillow guy said, I've studied what he does, and it's great. He's got technology that's similar to technology that checks counterfeit money. It's the best in the world, I think. I met him a couple months ago. His technology is really good. I think Jovan is the best one out there, who I have done due diligence on to audit the paper ballot specifically in any audit. After Trump lost, and what has been long been a red state, conspiracy theories exploded, centered on Maricopa County machines. The GOP county chairman later resigned amid criticism for skipping the inspection. Even as the state Senate recount inches toward a start, the state has become rife with amateur election detectives. On March 5th, a handful of Trump supporters organized around activist Stacey Burke and visited Maricopa County election office and claimed without evidence that the ballots could easily be accessed in the back of a warehouse. Wrapped up in physical evidence collection with a Purple Heart vet willing to dumpster dive for his country, Burke posted on Facebook.
Well, this morning, we've got video showing people rifling through dumpsters outside Maricopa County's tabulation center. This happening just last weekend. So Anita Roman live for us this morning with those details. Good morning, Anita.
Yeah, good morning. The video was released following claims that were made online that shredded documents were found in dumpsters outside the building, and that is something that the county recorder's office denies. So let's go ahead and look at the video that we do have. Surveillance video that is time-stamped Friday just before 3 p.m. shows two women at the main entrance of the Maricopa County Elections Department. One takes photos, talks to someone inside. She's handed a piece of paper, which we are told is a voter registration form, and then leaves. One of those women is then seen on surveillance video the next day outside of the tabulation center. A camera at the north dock shows three people getting outside of an SUV near the dumpsters behind the building. One man digs through the trash, pulls out a yellow bag with shredded paper sticking out of a hole. After taking some selfies, pulling out what looks like a piece of wood, they then reportedly tried to break into the warehouse, but were told they never made it inside. In a statement to Fox 10, Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Bridger says, "I want to be very clear. I can say with 100% certainty that the 2.1 million legally voted ballots from the November general election are safe and accounted for in the Elections Department vault under 24/7 surveillance." He goes on to say that none of the ballots have been shredded or thrown away. Richard also says that he doesn't know what was in the bag that was found with the shredded stuff, but says a variety of non-classified documents have been shredded. Back to you.
This isn't Burke's first brush with a niche short of fame in the months after the election. She sued Arizona Secretary of State in an attempt to overturn the result, only to have her case tossed out by a judge when it was revealed that she hadn't registered to vote, much less legally actually voted. Oh my God! How come all these grifters don't even register to vote, from Destiny to the far right? They don't even vote. Why are you so up politics ass if you can't even vote, dude? It's so easy. It's so fucking easy. Just vote. Just vote, forehead. What is wrong with these people? I don't get it. I legitimately, my brain doesn't understand the brain of somebody like this. Why are they like this? Someone help me. Someone help me understand. This is what Joven technology was supposed to find. Holy moly, this is the fringes of the fringe. QAnon cult members have claimed for months that Donald Trump secretly watermarked ballots to catch Democrats doing fraud. Now an official at the Arizona election audit says they are using UV lights to look for the watermarks. I'm also hearing about UV lights. Can you tell us what those are for? The UV lights were part of the paper evaluation process. They used to look for watermarks on the ballots, and the county elections assure us there are no watermarks on the ballots. That was the part of the things they used to evaluate the paper and things I mentioned earlier. In a statement, Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Risher, a Republican, said the ballots are securely stored. Camera footage shows that these three attempted to unlawfully pry open our warehouse doors, but were unsuccessful, Richard said. They did, however, climb into the dumpster outside the building and remove trash. The day after the dumpster diving incident, ballot hunters had a new conspiracy theory. The ballots were burned in barns holding chickens. On March 6th, a fire broke out in Maricopa County chicken farm owned by Hickman Family Farms, burning 160,000 chickens alive. Hickman's connection to the farm fire prompted insinuations that the fire had been used to destroy incriminating ballots, with the Gateway pundit dubbing it a mysterious fire. Members of the Arizona Patriot Party, a far-right group of the state, drove out to the scene of the farm, reporting ominously in their newsletter that the air smelled less like burned chicken flesh and more like burned paper, like ballots. The most predominant odor is that of burned wood or paper. Oh my God, chat. They're fucking losing it, chat. We do politics here every morning starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy. The morning politics guy. Politics Frogs in every single day. Same time, 10 a.m. Day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about Suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid, and you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.